What's going on, y'all? Welcome back to basketball. Today, we're back on Bleacher Report. I couldn't leave Bleacher Report for that long, y'all. Y'all know I couldn't. I think it was probably Monday when I did the last one. That's too long in between. We can't wait a full work week before we come back to Bleacher Report. It's not okay. It's not okay. But anyway, today, we've got the 2025 trade board right here. What does that mean? As we're going into the offseason, there's only a couple weeks left in the NBA season. We want to look at who are the top trade targets going into this offseason, right? It's the NBA. There's always people getting wheeled and dealed, despite there being aprons now and them making it harder to make trades. While I do think that's going to play a part in things, I'm curious to see kind of who's on the block right now. Who are the names that we are thinking could potentially get moved? We see KD and Booker on here. I'm almost willing to bet KD will be gone. I'm almost willing to bet that Booker will not be gone. But I'm curious to see if they put both of these guys in this article. A reminder, make sure you guys like, subscribe, and comment. I've responded to every single comment on my YouTube channel up to this point, and I intend to keep on doing so. As always, go watch the player prospect videos. They're my favorite ones to do on the channel. Don't always get as many views just because they're educational, and some of you don't like that, but they're actually doing pretty well on the channel right now, so I'm glad you guys are liking it. YouTube claims the revenue for them all the time, despite them being transformative content, so please, go support them, because I'm doing them purely out of fun and for your guys' entertainment. But anyway, let's get into the article. How many people are going to be on this list? What is it, 10? Is there anything I need to know beforehand? I don't care. We're going into it. Number 10, Mark Williams. Yeah, no, that feels appropriate. At the very least, Mark Williams is definitely going to be on the block. So let's recap, right? Mark Williams gets randomly traded to the Lakers, right? It came as a surprise. We didn't know that Mark was on the table, right? The Luka trade happens, and we're like, oh, snap, Lakers don't have a big man now. You can't really have a Luka Doncic team without a lob threat center. That's just kind of what you need to have. It makes Luka infinitely better. Jackson Hayes is doing a decent enough job of it right now, but they'd like someone better. All of a sudden, Mark Williams gets traded there. We're like, whoa, this is amazing. Like, young guy, super talented. The defensive numbers are atrocious, but we all know he's playing in Charlotte. It's clearly an effort thing. Throw him on the Lakers with LeBron and Luka. Probably going to get a lot better effort out of him, right? That's what we all assumed. Then Mark Williams comes in. They do the evaluation of him. If you guys are curious, go watch some of my other videos about it. I kind of explain how those processes work typically. And the Lakers basically said, nah, like, this guy is not healthy at all. We're taking a look at him, and we think he's got a pretty chronic issue long term. So we are not comfortable with this at all. So they send him back to Charlotte, to which Charlotte was like, whoa, what are you talking about? Clearly, Charlotte was aware of it, right? The new GM and ownership group there was probably taking a look at Mark themselves, and they were like, oh no, like, this is not something that is looking good long term for us health wise. And look, anything could happen with Mark Williams, right? He could be just fine going forward. It's just, doctors are taking a look and saying, it's looking pretty iffy, right? It looks like he's just going to be struggling with this stuff probably for the rest of his life, which is unfortunate. As someone with chronic back issues myself, I understand. It's not fun. The flare-ups just come out of nowhere sometimes. So now he's awkwardly back in Charlotte. He's been playing very well since then, but you have to imagine he's kind of like, okay, how much is this team really invested in me? They probably don't care to necessarily have him long-term anyway at this point, since they were willing to deal him. So you have to assume he probably gets dealt again. It's probably going to be hard for them to trade him just because now the jig is up on this new Charlotte Hornets staff, that it's like, okay, you guys are willing to be a little bit sneaky about things. We get it, which credit to the Hornets, because like the previous regimes, like, they just kind of didn't do much in general. I appreciate that these guys are trying to do stuff, which is cool. But yeah, I have to imagine Mark is on the move. Where? I don't know. It's not going to be the Lakers, though. Moving on to number 9, Jabari Smith Jr. Yeah, that's fair. The Rockets having a great season, right? Definitely exceeding expectations. I think there's something we're learning, though, about this team, because they have so much young talent, right? Their young core is very, very large. There's a lot of talent there, some shining brighter than others. And you don't want to keep so many of these guys on your team for so long. One, that's just like developmental issues, right? Some people aren't getting the opportunities that they necessarily need and deserve, so you're not getting a chance to really utilize and maximize that talent. But also, you have to start making decisions and supporting like the best couple players, which, let's be very clear, that is Alperen Şengün and Amen Thompson. Like, those are the two best players that they have going forward, right? They're probably still missing like that 1A talent, that's difficult, right? That's a tough one to find. But you look at some of the other talent on the team, the young guys. You got Jalen Green, he's still kind of Jalen Green, right? You have the great moments and you have the not as great moments with him. You have Jabari Smith Jr. that's not quite turning into anything all that interesting as of right now. He has his moments as well where you see the 3-and-D side of him, but I don't know. I don't see something like extremely valuable long term at this point, so maybe it's best to help give him a new change of scenery. You look at guys like Jayshawn Tate's not young anymore. Tari Eason's probably a guy you want to hold on to, right? Reed Shepard, you're at least curious about developing going forward, right? And you're gonna have another draft pick this year. It's probably a year where you want to trade that pick more so than anything, because again, we want to start supporting some of their like really good young talent that we have. Let's keep Tari Eason out there in the first 5. Let's get Şengün and Amen Thompson, some good players to have around them. We like Van Vliet and Dylan Brooks right now, but what can we get for a Jalen Green and a Jabari Smith Jr.? I think other teams would certainly be interested. It wasn't that long ago he was a number 2 overall pick, and people can figure it out in other places, right? We've seen it plenty of times, and a change of scenery might just be all that's needed, because a lot of times, believe it or not, you just need to be in a different system, and these guys can figure it out because they're all extremely talented. So I could see the Rockets wheeling and dealing a bunch this offseason. I'm sure the name Kevin Durant is going to come up. I don't know if that makes a ton of sense for them. Like, I don't think they need to go out and just like find option 1A this offseason, because again, it's a young team. I don't know where else you're going to find it, and I honestly don't know who it would make sense to be going in. Look, there's just not many guys that can be that option 1A, right? So that's kind of the struggle I see with building the Rockets going forward. I can't wait to do an ideal offseason with them, because I just think it's going to be very, very interesting. But I don't know, maybe a Zion Williamson does become available somehow, and then you'll have the assets to go and get him. And mind you, it would cost a lot to get Zion still, but I don't know. Just kind of my thoughts on old Jabari Smith there. Number 8, Nick Claxton. This is interesting. So the Nets are in this position right now where they don't have to do anything. I think the Nets are going to have a very valuable stance going into things this offseason. Because just think about this. Not many teams have cap space, right? Cap space is so valuable right now because it's so hard to move players and trades and other things like that. That's why you see so many 3-team deals going on with teams like the Brooklyn Nets getting involved, like maybe the Portland Trailblazers, the Detroit Pistons, right? Insert other team that has a lot of cap space, right? But there's just not many of them that exist out there. The Nets obviously are entering that rebuild mode, right? They're hoping they get a high draft pick this season, right? So let's say they get a top pick, and we've talked about the landing pad situation before. What does that mean? You go and get like a Cooper Flagg. You don't want him to be on a team all by himself with just no NBA talent whatsoever. That's how you end up with the first couple years of Cade Cunningham, right? Where he just can't get anything going because he's playing with just non-NBA players, essentially. So if you get a Cooper Flagg, you might want the Cameron Johnson and the Nick Claxton on the team. So the Nets can say, look, we don't have to trade this guy. We know you guys want him because you know you could get him from us. We're not like attached to him extremely long term, but we'd certainly be happy to have him so that we can have a nice lob threat defensive center for Cooper Flagg to play next to, or like I said, insert any other player, right? Cool, makes sense. But also, teams have to call you because you've got all the cap space in the world. And so they're like, look, we'd like to work with you and get this, and we know that you have the cap space. So I think the Nets are just sitting in this ultimate value proposition space. There's plenty of good reason to keep Nick Claxton on the team, but he's a good basketball player, and I could see other teams wanting him. Like, I'd love to see him on, like, a Memphis or something, or I know Lakers fans have their eyes set on Nick Claxton. I don't even know how you maneuver that trade exactly. That's going to be another interesting thing. How do the Lakers maneuver some of these off-season trades? I think that's going to be interesting. He started out this season, like, a little bit slow. We did a video just would have been posted yesterday at the time you guys are, or no, it was posted today at the time that I'm recording this, talking about the Nets off-season. We talked about Claxton, where, start out the season a little bit slow, injuries and stuff. Makes sense. It takes a little bit to come back from injuries, right? Now we're kind of back to seeing more of that defensive anchor that he's used to being, is able to switch 1 through 5, all those great things that we like about Nick Claxton. So I don't know. I think it's an interesting spot. I don't think it's a guarantee that he moves, but I'm sure people will be calling about it. And there we go. We're talking about the other one. Cam Johnson. Yes. Had an awesome offensive season for Brooklyn. nobody else really on the team, right? But kind of despite that, he was able to go and get his buckets. Defensively, kind of had a down year, but again, he was on the Nets. Things weren't always the greatest this year for the Nets. I trust that Cam Johnson is still going to be a good player. Same situation, right? No matter who you take in this year's draft, it wouldn't be the worst thing in the world to have a Cam Johnson on your team that could just go out and be the leading scorer for a Cooper Flagg, an Ace Bailey, a Dylan Harper, VJ Edgecombe in your first year, right? That way, there's someone else that has to be on the scouting report that can take some attention off of you, right? It's just going to help the development of whatever young player you have. You have to have the vets. You have to have guys like that. Just makes too much sense, right? And Cam Johnson's valuable. He really, really is. Like, he's one of those guys that can fit next to star players. We've seen it already earlier in his career, so I don't know. He would be extremely valuable should you try to trade him, but I don't think you have to by any means. So I'm going to use the exact same logic that I used for Nick Claxton here with Cam Johnson. Lauri Markkanen. Okay, I'm going to get a little bit repetitive. Same situation with the Jazz, right? The Jazz are starting their rebuild this next season, right? They've just been kind of waiting up to this point, kind of being like, okay, like there's no like real like crazy talent for us to develop around yet. Let's just kind of be patient, see what's happening. Do you guys see like they've told Walker Kessler like, dude, shoot whatever threes you want. They're just telling Collier run up and down the court as much as you want. Filipowski can do step back threes as much as he wants. They're just rolling the ball out there at this point and just seeing what happens, right? They're clearly tanking. They're like, we know that this is the year that's the most critical for our franchise. We need to get one of the top 3 or 4 guys in this draft, preferably Cooper Flagg. And when we get him here, there's been a lot of discussion internally where they're like, we're okay with having a lot of the solid players that we have on our team around him next year for the exact reasons I already laid out. Colin Sexton's a nice bucket getter. Lauri Markkanen is a borderline all-star player every single year. John Collins is really good. Walker Kessler's a good starting center on any team, right? So we're okay with having these guys on the team, but they're not untouchable either. I also know just from my own sources internally, they love Lauri Markkanen there, and he loves playing in Utah. Like, he loves being that dude. He loves living there. Like, that's kind of his thing. That's why he signed the contract the way that he did, so that they couldn't trade him this year, and Utah was cool with it, right? Like, that's just how they run. They're a very professional organization. They never stay down for very long. I've got a ton of respect for the Utah Jazz. So I'm sure he'll be involved in conversations, and I'm sure the Jazz will keep picking up the phones, and then some of you will be like, ABC, he was on the chopping block for things. Yes, I understand that the people are reporting that they picked up the phones. A lot of times teams do that because they want intel, right? They want to know, okay, who are other teams trying to shop, right? Like there were teams that picked up the phone from the Dallas Mavericks when they were trying to offload Luka, right? And they were like, oh, so y'all are trying to trade Luka. I bet you they didn't even completely believe him, but you know, they want the intel on things. People might call the Timberwolves and say, hey, we'd like Anthony Edwards, and they'll say, okay, who are you trying to give us for Anthony Edwards? Just because they're like, okay, it's good for us to know who you or how you value people, because that's just helpful for negotiations. So I don't think Lowry's going to go anywhere. I think they're going to hold him put and use him as a developmental piece for whoever they take. And look, like think about it a bit more long term, right? Let's say they get Cooper Flagg, right? Very possible that they could. Is Lauri Markkanen going to be on the championship version of Cooper Flagg and the Jazz? Potentially not, but I think having Lauri Markkanen on the team for the early years of Cooper Flagg is going to help elevate him to higher levels, right? So I think that that's kind of the important thing that you have to take into consideration with that. It was like having Kyrie on like those young Celtics teams, right? Even though he went and got hurt then, it's nice to kind of have those pieces to kind of help push things forward. So that's what I think you do with Lauri Markkanen. Next, LaMelo Ball. Yeah, this is going to be an interesting one to follow. This is going to be a really interesting one. So, LaMelo Ball is really good at basketball. He's not the most efficient at basketball, but he's really good at basketball, right? We all see the shot creating, the playmaking. He's really smart, although he does some dumb things sometimes, and I have questions about him off the court a little bit. I mean, I don't know him personally or anything like that, but just seems to be a bit of a goofball, but, you know, is what it is. I think you have to ask some questions at this point if you're Charlotte, right? Again, you've got this new regime, and I think you have to take a look at the young core that was started by another group and say, okay, is this really what we want to do? I've given a lot of credit to the Charlotte front office since they've come in, that they seem like they're trying to kind of do things a smarter way, build things correctly. you do have to wonder, like, is LaMelo worth keeping around, right? You pay him a good amount of money. He does get hurt quite a bit. And, like, yes, there's been so many other injuries to people on this team, but is he culturally the fit that you want? And more so, can he win you basketball games? I don't know. Can you build a team around him quick enough to where he's not just going to want to bolt anyway? I don't know. I really don't. And I don't think you for sure have to move him this offseason, but I'm just telling you, if I was in their position, I would probably be making some calls about it. Because look, people would 100% be interested. You would get a haul for this kid, right? Like, huge scorer, right? Can get you 30 points, 40 points any night, shooting it from half court damn near if he needs to, can make any pass. He's got great size. He's in the passing lanes, things like that, right? You'd get an absolute haul for him. Who would even go get him? Man, I would love to see him in Orlando. Oh my gosh, I would love to see him in Orlando. Funny enough, he'd be kind of going to a similar situation, but maybe a little bit stronger culturally at this point, just because the new Hornets regime probably hasn't had a ton of time to establish something like that. But Orlando's more of the grindy culture, right? They've kind of got going right now, which is just, if you've been to Orlando, it's just completely different than what is actually like in Orlando, at least from my experience. I lived in Florida for a while, and that's just never the impression I got of Orlando. But I like the team. Like, I think it's cool what they're doing with them. So I'd love to see him there. I don't really know who else comes to mind in this. I'm doing some mental math in my head, and I wonder if you could do like a LaMelo to Atlanta, Trey to Orlando, and then insert young players and picks back to Charlotte type thing. I don't know. I'd actually have to think through that logistically, but just kind of an interesting thought I'm happening. Zion Williamson. Yeah, no, he's always going to be in the rumors. Look at his arms. That is nuts. Dude is enormous. Yeah, Zion Williamson is awesome, right? That's what we've seen this back half of this year. He's been healthy. It's very cool. And we're all reminded when Zion Williamson is on the floor, he is one of the best players in the NBA, and he is just unstoppable. He doesn't even shoot three-pointers, and he is absolutely unstoppable because as soon as he gets any step going towards the rim, it is over. He's elevating over everyone. He has incredible touch. He has incredible handle. He's got really good passing vision. Like, I need you guys to know he is more than just jump and dunk the basketball. He is so talented and just so damn athletic. I have felt the wrath personally. It is something else. I can't even imagine how skilled he is now. But no, Zion's awesome. I don't think the Pelicans are going to move him unless there's like another significant injury or something, which then it becomes really hard. But there's just a talent like this just doesn't come along very often, where you have a guy this young. And remind you, like, Steph Curry had a lot of injuries early on in his career, right? And people were asking the same questions, like, yeah, he's really good, but is he ever going to be on the court for forever, right? Maybe we just, like, the medical teams just need time to learn and adapt. But man, everybody in New Orleans gets hurt, so I don't know what's going on down there. Maybe it's all the good food that they have or something like that. I don't know, but especially after the Luka trade, I feel like teams are especially sensitive to trading the generational talent because he is a generational talent. Like, you would get an absolute haul for this guy. I can't even imagine, like, who would go get, again, I guess we talked about the Rockets already. Like, that's a starting point, but it's not just going to be that simple. It would be a pretty hefty thing to go and move him. I don't know. He's super talented, though. He is super, super talented. I think they're going to go for, like, more of the soft reset type of thing. Like, Brandon Ingram's gone. Maybe you move a DeJounte Murray. You probably try to move a CJ McCollum. You hold on to the Herbs and Trey Murphy's. Trey looked really, really good this year. You still got, like, Alvarado you could hold on to. Maybe go get another high pick this year that works out. Maybe you get some lottery luck or something. What if the Pelicans got some lottery luck and they ended up with like an Ace Bailey or something like that? I don't know. I think it'd be really, really cool. But regardless, I don't know. I don't know if you can just trade Zion. I think that'd be a tough thing to convince me to do. Trae Young in Atlanta. I think the conversations are going to be had at this point. Something I want to say, just so that all of you people who watch me have good perspective on things, right? I want you guys to be well-rounded in your thoughts for the basketball world before we talk about Trae Young. It's late March, early April at the time that you're watching this, right? In the NBA, it's widely said throughout anyone that you talk to, March and April NBA basketball is not real. What do I mean by that, right? Like, let me explain a little bit. So once you kind of get into March and April in the NBA, teams tend to stop doing certain things. They're not doing real in-depth, like, scouting reports on their opponents at this point. They become very internally focused, where it's like, okay, kind of throw out the rotations that we had earlier in the year, right? We're testing things at this point because certain teams are just bad at this point, right? And they know they're not going anywhere, so they're kind of in the tank mode. Look at the Jazz, right? Like I said, Walker Kessler, they're letting him shoot like 5 3-pointers a game right now. He's not good at shooting them. I think he's shooting like 11% right now, but they're like, hey, Walker, go try to get better at 3-pointers right now. Like, you have green light. Go do what you need to do, dog. Cool. That makes a ton of sense. Better NBA teams are shrinking their rotations a little bit because they're trying to stay fresh for the playoffs, right? So it just becomes a lot of like 3D chess that's going on right now. So certain things that you're seeing, like Kobe White is absolutely crushing it right now. Is that real? I don't know. Denny Advia seems absolutely unstoppable for the Portland Trailblazers right now. Is that real? I don't know. Quentin Grimes looks amazing right now. Is that real? I don't know, because here's the thing. I saw Kobe White be absolutely dominant at the end of last season as well. And it didn't come back to start the year. Now, yes, Zach LaVine's on the team, right? And he was out at the back half of that year, too, so that could be part of it. And I'm just saying you need to be really critical at this time, right? Like, we can observe that good stuff is happening, but we also need to reel ourselves in to be like, okay, how real is this? Like, is this really something that we want to bank on going forward? So just because you see your rookie really hooping right now, or you see a certain guy on your team really hooping right now, is it real? We don't know. The saying was always the first month of an NBA season is a way better indicator of how good your team is than the last month of the NBA season. It just is. So just giving you guys a bit of context, because Atlanta hasn't been bad recently. They've actually been like kind of solid. And I know I've got some passionate Hawks fans in the Discord. Go join the Discord if you haven't already. Link is in the video description. Go hop on there. We are talking hoops all the time. I bet you if I were to look right now, yep, I've got 4 messages that I've missed since starting this video like 20 minutes ago. So people are talking, and they're talking early in the morning. So go be a part of it. But Trae Young had a rougher start to this year. He's starting to play a little bit better now. You're seeing Reese Shea start to look like something. You're going to get Jalen Johnson back next year. Hopefully he's good to go. They're kind of doing some experimenting with the center. Okongwu is interesting to me. I don't know why. I feel like he should be a much better rim defender than he is, because he does not seem to deter any shots at the rim for me. Capella's probably gone this year, right? So do you kind of try to do a soft reset with this team? Because Trae Young is an incredible talent. But, there'd probably be a couple teams interested in him. We talked about the Orlando Magic. They need scoring and playmaking like nobody's business, right? And so there's going to be so many people that say Trae Young to the Magic this offseason. And rightfully so. We were saying it last season that they need to go get like an Anthony Simons, and it just never happened, and it seemed so easy to make happen. So I don't know. Orlando has a history of making interesting moves internally with things. So we'll watch for that. But Trae Young with the Hawks, I don't know. I could see Hawks fans wanting to run it back next year and trying to do something with this. Because, again, Jalen Johnson's interesting. Reese Shea's interesting. I don't think either of those two are going to be all-stars ever, but I think they're interesting talents. Dyson Daniels had a really fun season. He's probably going to get a nice little contract this offseason. Deservedly so. Defensively, he was awesome. Offensively, he got a lot better at getting to the rim. Still can't really shoot, but look, if everybody could do everything, then what are we talking about, right? Then what are we talking about? Like, everybody's got some sort of weakness. But I don't know. I don't know what to do with this team. I think this is going to be one of the harder ones to determine when we do like ideal offseason videos. If you guys don't know what ideal offseason is, by the way, just go look at the most popular videos on my channel. It's all ideal offseason. We will be doing this series again in the offseason. We will do these again. By the way, like I'm trying not to do mock drafts every week. They always just ball out on my channel. Do you guys just want weekly mock drafts? Can you tell me that in the comments below? If you really want them, I'll do them. I'm just trying not to be lazy on my channel and recycle content. So I don't know. You guys tell me. But when I think about teams that are going to be really hard to determine next year or what to do this offseason, I think about the Hawks. I think about the Kings. I think about the Miami Heat. Maybe, no, I wouldn't say Golden State necessarily. I don't know. Those are kind of the 3 teams that I think of like off the top of my head that I'm like, where do we go with this group? What do we do with them now? Because I don't know. I don't really know. They're kind of in this weird little in between, and I feel like they got to pick a direction. No sports fans want to be in the middle. Never want to be in the middle. Oh, speaking of the Kings, Domantas Sabonis. Yeah, like let's talk about it. The Kings are in such a weird point. And I feel bad for them, right? Because they've been trying to do things the right way. They were trying to build around this interesting core of Sabonis and Fox. They went and got Malik Monk. That ended up working out. Keegan Murray was looking like he was going to be something, and then it didn't really transpire this year. They added DeMar DeRozan to the team. all cool stuff, right? Then Fox puts you in the foxhole, right? Where it's like they just didn't have any other options, right? He wanted out. He put their arms behind their back and made them do something. And so they went and made, I think, the best move that they probably could have, and they brought in a Zach LaVine, who honestly has been an even better offensive player than Fox was, which is cool, right? I mean, Zach LaVine's a nice basketball player, but now you're kind of in this spot, right, where you're like, okay, we've basically rebuilt the old Chicago Bulls. We've got DeRozan and LaVine. That doesn't really win you basketball games. It's pretty entertaining to have on the basketball court, but we've got him, we got Sabonis, we got Monk, we got all these dudes that make up a pretty hefty salary cap, but are we really going to go anywhere? You bought yourself some time to try to do something this year. Now what do you do? And I think it's a great question because I don't see this current group doing anything, right? Like, this isn't a contending group. It's just an odd group, right? So Sabonis is so good, man. He's one of the best players in the NBA. He should be all NBA again this year. The fact that he wasn't an all-star was just stupid. Like, if you go and check out like any major statistics, right? Like, just go on estimated plus minus numbers right here. Where is Sabonis on this list? It shouldn't take hard to find Domantas Sabonis. He is 95th percentile overall in the NBA. He's awesome, right? He is absolutely awesome. I don't know. I don't know what you do. Like, there'd be teams interested. Every team would be interested in Sabonis, the offense that he brings, even defensively. Like, he doesn't block shots, but he's really solid defensively, like everywhere else. He's just not above the rim blocking shots, which is nice to have, but I don't know. He does everything for your team. He can do the Sabonis, like, hub offense, but it really gets everybody going. It's really, really cool. It's just, what do the Kings want to do? And I don't have a great answer to that. My instinct is to tear the team down because you don't have like a young guy that you're maybe thinking turns into that go-to option for things. Like, Sabonis is really, really good. But after that, like, is Sabonis LaVine really the direction you want to go? Probably not. Probably not. So I think you got to look at tearing down the team. But you can also just kind of wait it out a little bit, right? You could wait it out, kind of see what's happening, make teams desperate. So I don't know if it has to happen in the offseason. Guess we'll see. And then, yep, Kevin Durant. He's the number one guy. Are there any honorable mentions or anything? No. I'd like to have Kobe White on here. I feel like he should just be in the conversation for that at this point. But yeah, number one, Kevin Durant. There's no point of keeping him at this point. I'm not going to sugarcoat it. Almost certainly he's getting traded this offseason. This Suns team just didn't work, unfortunately. And I'd say it's mostly due to injuries and them bringing in bad coaches. Because look, when you look at the numbers, those three were good when they were on the court. And I thought they made a lot of great player moves. I thought they brought in everything that they could, because they didn't have a ton of resources. I thought the trades they made were all solid, all the free agent signings. I was like, yep, that's the best you can do right now. Because look, you might say, oh, bringing in Monte Morris, he wasn't great. For what they had, that's probably the best that they could do, right? So I think they maximize things. It's just injuries derailed this team, and then I really think coaching messed it up, man. You just watch the game and they're all just standing there. Like, Nick Richards is doing nothing on the basketball court, and he's such a talented player. It bothers me to no end. Like, nobody's setting screens for another. It's just them isoing back to back to back, which, look, they're three of the best isolation players in the NBA, Beal, Booker, and Durant. But I don't know, man. I just feel like they were just bringing in names that were solid in Frank Vogel and now Coach Bud, right? But they're never known to be really creative guys that can, just help them out in some way. Because look, after those three, the roster did become kind of rough, right? So you needed to get creative with other things. And I don't know. I think they got lazy with the coaching search, and that really hurt them a lot as well. I think we needed someone creative that could bring in some new ideas and some sort of offense to kind of help offset things. Because just think about it. How creative could you be when you have three of just the most lethal scorers in the NBA on one basketball team? And say whatever you want about Bradley Beal. If you're still one of those people that thinks that Bradley Beal's not good at basketball at this point, you're just not that smart. There was someone that left a really funny comment at one point that was the people that hate on Bradley Beal and say that he's not good, that's a great indicator as to you should not talk to them about basketball because they don't understand it. Is he maybe a little overpaid? Sure. But economics would tell you probably not, actually, because of the leverage that he had when negotiating his contract. So just take that into account. Bradley Beal's amazing at basketball still. Still one of the hardest guys to stop in the NBA. But yeah, where do you move him? Where do you move him? The immediate teams that come to mind, we talked about Houston already. Memphis feels like the best bet in my mind. They have so many assets and so many players that you could give Phoenix to keep them competitive with Booker and Beal right away. Maybe they're trading Beal as well this offseason, but I don't imagine them trading Booker. He's still young enough, and that's kind of their franchise guy. I think you just try to retool around him more so. He's taken you to a finals before. So I don't see why that can't happen again, because I've seen it happen already before. And Devin Booker's still a very, very good NBA player. So can we get the Bridges and the Cam Johnson type guys around him again, and a Chris Paul type dude with Ayton? Can we just go build another team kind of like that? Maybe we can then. I don't know. But I think you try to go for the soft reset. You don't have the draft picks, so you just want to start winning basketball games as soon as you can again. So maybe you make some sort of trade with Memphis. I've seen Heat fans kind of wanting to get in on it. Sure. Would it be cool to see KD in Miami? Sure. Does it make a ton of sense? I don't know. Where else could you even send him? I don't even know. I don't even know where else you could send him. Send him back to the Warriors. That'd be fun. That'd be cool. I'd love to see Steph, Jimmy, and KD on one team. That'd be kind of cool. But anyway, yeah, I don't know. I think you have to move him. I just think you do. This team didn't work. Try something new. Please put a new coach in place. Just please. Somebody maybe younger, more creative, things like that. But yeah, let's move on from Kevin Durant. But anyway, that's the list that we have today. Keeping it simple for you guys on a Friday. I appreciate you guys for tuning in as always. Please do let me know. I want your input on content. I really, really do. I'm testing out this Let's Talk About the Offseason videos right here. We've done 2 of them so far. The first one did okay. We're gonna see how the Nets one does, right, as we get ready for ideal offseason. You guys want weekly mock drafts? Like I said, I don't want to be lazy, but damn, they do pretty good. We're going to keep doing the do they fit in the NBA, despite the fact that I'm never going to make any money off them because they're my favorite and you guys seem to like them, which is cool. We have a lot of fun with them. I'm going to do a Duke week at some point. I promise you I'll do a Duke week as soon as Duke either wins the national championship or they lose, which would be crazy at this point. I think I might just do a whole week of their 5 guys that are probably going to go to the draft this year. I think that could be kind of cool. Let me know if you like that idea or not. But yeah, seriously, give me some feedback on content that you guys want to see. I want to know. But as always, I appreciate you guys. Have a great weekend. Stay tuned for the comment of the video. You thought I forgot, didn't you? I didn't forget. Alrighty, y'all. Comment of the video comes from the VJ Edgecombe. Does he fit in the NBA video here? And the comment comes from the GOAT-GT5TY, who asked a really good question, in my opinion. He said, do you think the amount of turnovers Yakuchonis gets in college will transfer over to the NBA level? I gave my response. I respond to every single comment, as always, so make sure you go leave yours so that maybe you could be comment to the video. But I think this is a semi-interesting topic, so I just want to jump into it quick. Typically what we see when looking at guys that have a lot of turnovers, right, is obviously if you're just not reading the game very well at the college level, I'm concerned about you going to the NBA. What we see with Yakuchonis and his turnovers more so is Illinois tends to just have this problem with their guards every single year. They play at a pretty fast pace and they don't always space the best. So I don't worry about it too much. I still think Yakuchonis and the reading ability that he has on a basketball court is pretty dang elite. But when we send guys to the NBA, couple things to take in mind. You have a lot smarter teammates. You have a lot more space to work with, right? So in theory, turnovers are a little bit harder to do, but also you have better athletes that are in passing lanes that are better at reading things as well. So there's just a lot more intelligence all around. But if I'm the guy with the basketball, I would much rather just have a more consistent scheme around me and teammates that actually know where to stand all the time, that you don't always have that at the college level. Your teammates are running into you more often than not, it feels like nowadays. So I do think it gets a little bit easier when it gets to the NBA, but there would be instances where I'd be watching it and I'm like, okay, they're just not seeing anything, and then I'd be concerned about it. But I don't think Yakuchonis is there. So thank you for asking a very, very good question. I appreciate you guys asking those questions. I'm happy to respond as always. But yeah, hope you guys have a great weekend. Thanks so much. Bye.